Hello everyone, today I'm just going to share about what I like to use in local waters that has proven to be very effective if you are aiming for the typical table size fishes that you will keep using live prawns especially. Alright, so this, what you see here is the finished product that I bring out on my trips. Okay, it consists of a size 2.0 hook and then size 2 hook. I prefer owner brand of hooks, as you can see here, and this is the finished product. This is by no means the I will call the standard. By no means you will call it the standard, but it is really a preferred method that I use that has served me very well. Okay, the finished product will look like this. Okay, and then it has a weight on the shorter end. Okay, so the idea is that the bait actually rests on the floor. Okay, especially for bigger fishes, they tend to be a bit more wary. If your bait is very near to your weight, tendency is that they will not take. They are a lot more wary. I've seen how fish, especially the bigger ones, behave in very clear waters. The smaller ones will not have any qualms and will throw all caution to the wind and then come right up to the bait, even if your weights are there and all, and they will nibble at your bait. But the bigger ones will watch from a distance. So it's very important to have the bait away. And for myself, I like to add additional lead shot here, 2 gram lead shot here. This is to ensure that the bait does not wrap around your main line, especially when you're releasing into deep waters. You also keep the bait safely away from the main line when you're releasing. Alright, so this is a finished product. It is a gang hook setup, but you can also choose to have a single hook instead of a gang hook. Alright, so okay, now I'm going to go through the process of tying this. Okay, firstly, my choice of hook. I much prefer owner hooks because don't be deceived, it looks similar to those much cheaper China hooks, but the China hooks have proven to break off, especially when you hit a snag or something like that. When you pull, they tend to just snap off. Those owner hooks, under tremendous strain, firstly it will hold up, but if it's really very bad strain, at the most it will just open up a bit. It will not snap off. Well, China hooks, many times I've seen it just simply snap off. So in a prolonged fight with a big one, the chances of dropping your fish is extremely high. So for local waters, I prefer to use 2.0, and my preference is actually the cutting edge, because cutting edge is proven to cut through hard bones of the jaw. And size 2 for the front hook, or you can use 2.0 or 1 and 1 is your preference, but I prefer to use size 2.0 and 2 because sometimes when the fish are a bit smaller, like parrotfish and all that, actually a size 2 hook can fit into the mouth of especially those 500 gram, 600 gram parrotfish. Right, so for leader, my favorite has always been absorber. I use 40 to 50 pounds, but increasingly I'm going for 50 pounds because I don't see much difference in the bite rate between 40 and 50 pounds, but 50 pounds tends to entangle a lot lesser. Alright, and I think this is a pure fluorocarbon from Daly's absorber, and for this price, I think it is really the most worth it. I think it's about $29 for 50 meters. It should be less than $29 for 40 pounds, and they give up to 60 meters. Many of the fluorocarbon actually give 30 to 50 meters, or sometimes 50 yards, but this is 60 meters, and I think it's really good value for money. And it's not too soft, and I think it's just the right amount of hardness. So okay, first to tie the branch line, I will start with the size 2.0 hook. Go in through here. Alright, make a loop. Make sure there's enough slack here for you to tie the second hook. You should go in from this side, and for myself I wrap round 5 times. Okay, and then you make sure your fingers are firm, and then you close this. Actually, strictly speaking, you should wet the knot a bit first to reduce the abrasion as you're pulling, because it might cause microscopic tears when you're pulling a line. It causes a big link. Okay, so this is the first hook, and then the second hook is this. Also through the front. Okay, I like to position it about here, just about less than a cm away from the first hook, because later when you tighten, the hook will actually travel further down. So I repeat this: 2, 3, 4, 5, and I close the loop. Okay, make sure your fingers were firm before you close it. Do not release until the knots are fully closed. And you will notice when you tighten, the hook will travel about another half a hook distance, which makes it a perfect length for hooking up onto the typical live knot. In fact, I find this even much more effective than even Tenya or Madai, which uses twin hooks. And in fact, this replicates it a lot better, especially if you put a latch shot. And for this, if you're not too confident, you might not want to put so long, but minimally I would suggest about 30 cm. Alright, 30 cm is about a ruler length. And then you leave a bit more slack for the knot, and then you cut off. Okay, now we're going to join the branch line onto the main line. Okay. To join, you simply put the two lines together. Let me remove the hooks first to reduce the restriction. Just put the two lines together. This is going to be the top that goes to your main fishing line. This is going to be the bottom where you tie a loop for the weight. Okay, so we're going to tie the knot just about here. For a start, when you're less confident, do give a bit more line for completing the knots. Alright, it's okay to waste a little bit of line. Just be a bit more generous with it. Okay, this is simply an overhand knot or grandmother knot, like most will call it. One, so you do one time, do it neatly. Both circles should close evenly. Do it once first. Then after that, hold on to the knot. We're going to do this 4 times. 2, 3, 4. Alright, making sure the two lines are nice and even. Then you close it. Okay, pull it close. And normally at this part, strictly speaking, like I mentioned earlier, you should wet the line, otherwise it will cause microscopic tears. And then as you pull, use your fingers to gently just close the knot. Alright. Right here, I like to pull each of the 4 strands individually to tighten it further once the knot is closed. Okay. Once done, I normally cut and leave about 3 mm. Okay. You do not want this to be too long, because if it's too long, it tends to be another area whereby you will snag your line and you cause entanglement. Too short, there's a risk that the line might run in and then you might lose your fish during a strong fight. Okay, so now I've joined the line to the main line. I'm going to tie a knot. This knot will go to is for you to hook onto the swivel of your main line. It doesn't have to be too long, but it shouldn't be too short, because if it's too short, this will hook onto the loop very easily. So I do it about less than a ruler length. Okay, for this, let me repeat again. I simply loop round, hold it firmly, and then I do a grandmother knot. 1 and 2. Alright, 2 times, and then you close it. Alright, this loop doesn't have to be big. Usually I leave it very small. The smaller the loops and the smaller the end lines are, it will reduce the chances of entanglement. It will reduce the chance of this hooking here when you're putting into the water. When fishing, I think we want to minimize all this entanglement and all that. And you close the knot. Okay. And again you cut, leaving about 2 to 3 mm will do. Not too long. Okay, so now you have it. And for the bottom, I'm going to tie the loop that will help, that will give me the loop for putting on the weight. Okay, to do this, I estimate about 1/3. Alright, 1/3 the length of the hook. Alright, this is where I'm going to tie the knot. Just bend it over and tie a loop. The loop should be just big enough to hold the weight. Alright, for this weight loop, you do not have to go 2 times because you're not so afraid of the weight dropping off. There's very little stress on the weight, so I just tie a single overhand knot will do. Okay, tighten it, and then you cut off. Again, leaving about 2 to 3 mm. Alright. Okay, there you have it. You have a complete Apollo rig, gang hook rig. This is my personal preference. Many people will have a very long loop for the weight. That means the hook will tend to hang like that. But I tried both, and I personally feel that this method actually catches a lot more fish, because I think especially the bigger ones they are a lot less wary of hooks. They are too near the weight. Alright, and then when you tie it this way, the hook most of the time is not entangled around the weight. Whereas if you tie a very long line for the weight, there is a high tendency this will wrap round, and half the time you're waiting for the big one to come, but they will never take. Only the small ones will start nibbling at your bait. Okay. Alright, so you notice that the line is is inclined downwards. In order to make it incline upwards, which is more ideal for presentation, I do this. This is a bit more difficult to follow, although it's actually a very simple knot. I just observe. You do this, and then I loop round. I loop round. Alright, and then I pull it upwards. I pull it upwards. Notice the knot. Okay, I pull it upwards, and I close it. There you go. We have something that stands out very nicely. We have something that stands out very nicely. This is to your fishing rod. This is to your bait. Alright, and then there is still a good chance that as you let go, this line will tend to wrap round. Or sometimes if your prawns or your live bait is too active, they will actually swim around a bit too much and then wrap round. Both are not ideal, because once it's wrapped round like that, the chances of take up by a fish is reduced drastically. They will never take a bait that is wrapped round the top. Even if they take, chances are you will not have a proper hookup because of the interference from the main line. So to counter this, I recommend using a lead shot. I prefer to use a 2-gram lead shot. Alright, I think it's just sufficient to keep the bait down when you're releasing, and at the same time it gives it enough movement for the bait to swim around to attract fish. Alright, so I put it about just about 2 to 3 inches away, and you just close it. I usually prefer to use a plier to close it really tightly. Okay, if you are not sure, you can try closing once, and then you open it again with a scissors to see whether it hurts the line or not. I've tried it a couple of times and I find that it doesn't hurt the line. But just for your own assurance, you might try to open it up again. Or alternatively, you might buy the more expensive version of leg shorts, which comes with a rubber coating. Okay, but this version will cost about twice the amount of those. Okay, so there you have it, a complete knot, my personal preference. But if you still prefer to tie the conventional way, you can use the same method. You can tie only one single hook. You can shorten this line further, like most people do, and you can lengthen this line. Yeah, but from trying this out over a long period of time, since many years ago, while fishing on the boat and all that, I found this method to seemingly catch a lot more. There's a take-up rate is actually a lot higher. Though the downside, I have to say, is that you tend to have to be a bit more careful because of the way it's structured and the weight being on the floor, or rather the bait being on the seabed more than the weight. There might be instances whereby you cannot feel the bite as obviously as if the hooks are hanging. Alright, but it's always a trade-off. To me, I rather have more bites, and then I am a bit more careful. Like when the bait is on the bottom, I will raise it a bit to feel the heavy weight to indicate that the fish are biting. In fact, when you pull a bait away from a fish that is trying to take it, the tendency is that it will actually spur aggressive behavior, and they tend to snatch the bait and give you a very firm hookup. Alright, no matter what it is, it's better to always raise the bait and then feel the bite first, feel the heaviness first before you strike. Okay, so this method has proven to be very, very effective for me. I hope it will also be effective for you.